we are going to pick three best questions and we will send some gifts for you. I know that the pandemic in Indonesia is rising, but I really hope we are still enthusiastic, full of hope that we will get through all of this. Okay, the next part of today's webinar is the opening remarks. So I would like to invite Ibu Angie Mizer, who is the Public Affairs Officer of U.S. Consulate General Surabaya. Please, Bu Angie.
Thank you so much, Pugu, and welcome everyone again to our closing session of the 2021 Virtual American Film Showcase. And I would like to thank all the people who are attending. Our panelists, we're so thrilled to have you all here today from Los Angeles and from Indonesia, and also everyone on the team that Pugu mentioned who have been working so tirelessly behind the scenes this week, getting us everything that we need to be successful. And as Pugu mentioned before, I just sort of start, we do know we're all experiencing, this new wave and rise in the pandemic here, and we just want you to stay safe and take care of your families and take all the precautions necessary. And we hope that the film showcase has been a way that you can, be at home in the safety with your family, but also bring a little bit of joy and enjoyment into your lives as well. So we hope that it has provided some sort of happiness and escape for all of you. And I gave opening remarks, and I'm so excited to give closing remarks for so many reasons. Tomorrow, as you know, well, for us tomorrow in the US, it's a couple more days, but it's July 4th, which is our Independence Day. And it's sort of fitting that we have our friends from Los Angeles here, because the last 3 Independence Days I've actually been in Los Angeles, where my husband's family is celebrating. And typically that means parades, fireworks, and ever so important, just so much food to share with neighbors, family, and friends. And the celebration is sort of a reminder every year. We sort of, take that moment to think about, what does America mean? What does the founding of America mean? And, it's the ideals of equality. It's that we as a country strive to welcome all, promote human rights, promote gender equity, women's empowerment, make sure all voices are heard. And more than anything, whenever I think about America and I look around at these celebrations, I think about, it's just the diversity that makes us strong as a country. And I know that's something that we share with Indonesia, that you look around and it is all the different stories, all the different backgrounds, all the different cultures and experiences that are blending together to make a strong unit. Um, and that's sort of what I think about when I think about Independence Day. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have um, Laura Nix here, who is the director, writer, and producer of this, who works in nonfiction and fiction. And this is her film, Walk, Run, Cha Cha, which was nominated for Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject. And we're so happy. And there were so many different aspects, even just of the filmmaking, as I was watching the film, that were so fascinating to me, that my husband and I talked about a lot after we watched the film too. Like, oh, that was so interesting how this technique was, and what did that make you feel? And I'm not a filmmaker by any means, but just the fact that it got us talking, I thought was really, really cool. And then we also have the subjects of the story, Paul and Millie Chow, who, as I said, thank you so much again for being willing to let us into that personal part of your life. And it is such a joyful film. It is such a hopeful film. It just like pulls you into your personal story. And actually, I was like, maybe I should learn how to do these dances too, because just of what it brought to you. And it was just such a wonderful, wonderful story to see sort of your journey from Vietnam to the United States through dance. And so, it's like such an American experience, but it's also such a personal experience, seeing your struggles and, what happened to you, and then coming to where you are now. And uh, just, it really touched me about, seeing what opportunities you had in America, and also seeing a story and voices portrayed just so beautifully on film. So I said I had a grin on my face the whole time I watched it. So it was such a lovely and touching film and story. So thank you. And we also have one of our exchange alum with us, Satrya Wibawa, who can give perspective on issues in Indonesia. He actually went on exchange on film and has tons of expertise in film itself, but particularly in film in Indonesia. And he can provide a perspective on sort of the Indonesian landscape and what is going on here, and talk about the importance of representing all voices in film as well. Um, and I just want to leave with one thing that, you know, as I said in the opening, it is through film and through art that we can open up these honest discussions. And when it's really good, um, you feel the need to want to learn more and to talk more and to share more. And this film definitely definitely fit that bill. So I really fit that bill. Sorry, that's a very idiom. It definitely made me want to know and share more, and I hope it did for you too. And so please, this is an opportunity to ask lots of questions, learn lots more, and just talk about something that's so unique and shared to us, which is these types of stories, these experiences of coming together, um, bringing diverse voices. I mean, they're dance instructors were, I think, Ukrainian, right? And so it's like you have the Ukrainian and Vietnamese, Chinese, or I don't know if I said that right, but Vietnamese into the same dance hall, learning from each other. I mean, that's such a thing that we share in Indonesia and America. So I encourage you to take this opportunity to ask questions, and I can't wait for this discussion. So thank you all so much for joining us and taking time out of your lives for this.
Thank you so much, PNG. And as usual, before we continue to the next part of the webinar, let's have a photo session. It's typical another Indonesian thing. I know it's virtual, but yes, Paul and Millie, this is typical of a meeting in Indonesia. It's incomplete without taking the without having the photo session. All right, so let's pause, bring our big smiles, and I will count. Okay, one, two, and three. Once again, one, two, and three. Awesome. Thank you so much. And let's go to the next part of today's webinar. We will have the introduction. So Baiste will help me showing to the attendees here the bios of Laura and also IGAK Satrya. Okay. Yes. So for our beloved attendees, today we have Laura Nix as the speaker. Laura Nix is a director, writer, and producer working in non-fiction and fiction. Her short film Walk Run Cha Cha was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary Short Subject after its world premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival. And it's streaming on New York Times Obdocs. She previously directed Inventing Tomorrow and The Yes Men Are Revolting, which was theatrically released domestically and in multiple international territories. Her film, The Light in Her Eyes premiered at IDFA, was broadcast on the PBS series POV and Al Jazeera Middle East. Other feature directing credits include the comedic melodrama The Politics of Fur, which played in over 70 festivals internationally and won multiple awards, including the Grand Jury Prize at Outfest. And whether you like it or not, the story of Hedwig. She was recently named a Chicken Egg Breakthrough Filmmaker, a prestigious award given annually to five experienced US-based women filmmakers. And in 2017, she was awarded the Sundance Institute Discovery Impact Fellowship. Her nonfiction work has screened at hundreds of film festivals internationally, on the New York Times of Docs, and on television via HBO, RA, ZDF, FIPRO, CBC, NHK, Canal Plus, and IFC. A McDowell Fellow, she has received support from the Bertha Foundation, Britok Call Humanities, COBO Fund, the Danish Film Institute, and the Sundance Documentary Fund. The rest of the profile of Laura, you may read on the slide. And the next one, we have IGAK Satrya Wibawa. IGAK Satrya Wibawa received his PhD with a dissertation exploring the diverse forms through which Indonesian cinema has portrayed child characters. He is also a lecturer at the Communication Department in the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at Airlangga University, Surabaya. His publications include a journal article, Children's Heroism in Indonesian Cinema, the representation of child heroes in Jenderal Kancil, and in the IME Journal of the National Academy of Screen and Sound, Australia, a monograph in Indonesian titled Anak-anak dalam layar Garin Nugroho, dari eksperimentasi visual hingga kritik terhadap Orde Baru, or in English will be Children in Garin Nugroho's film, a visual experiment and critics against Indonesia's New Order regime, was published by the East Java Art Council in 2016. He has published a number of other articles in Indonesian language journals. His research interest now focuses on the intersection between trauma memory studies, digital media, cinema, and the creative industry. So that's the introduction of Laura and also Satria. I would like to introduce Paul and Millie directly after this, because I have the first polling for all audience here. Mbak Esti, would you mind helping me to share the polling? What is the polling here? Yes, only one question for all attendees. Please answer quickly. Have you watched Wokran Chacha? Yes, only one question, and let us know the answers here. The attendees here. Okay, it's gonna end quicker. 49% voted, 50. Yes, why this is important for us? Because we would like to know, for those who have watched the movie, of course, you may get involved more with all of the speakers here. But those who have not, it's gonna be a trigger for you. After this discussion, you will watch the movie, okay? Because you still have uh, the access to enjoy the movie until tomorrow. And I would like to yes, 65%. Okay, no, okay, it's not the end of the poll. So the polling is still running, and I would like to remind everyone, all the attendees here, that you still have time to enjoy the films, 11 films for the American Virtual Film Showcase 2021, and don't hesitate to register and then enjoy the movie for free. Okay, can we close the polling? Yes, thank you, and we can launch it. Oh, no. Not the feedback one. Yes, so actually, most of the attendees for today have not watched the movie. Wow, so this is great for Laura and Paul and Millie to share more about Wokran Chacha. Okay, I will not shorten the poll, sorry, the webinar here. but let's try to give the audience, those who have not watched the Wokran Caca, let's play the trailer. But ST will help me to play the trailer. It's not that long. Okay. All right. Yes. So that's the trailer of Wokran Caca. Okay, and the next one must be the discussion session. And I would like to invite Laura and of course with Paul and Millie to share a lot of things about Wokran Caca, start from the production or many experience behind the scenes or or anything. Okay, Laura, Paul, and Millie, time is yours.
Terima kasih. Thank you so much for having us here. Um, the film I made before this, Inventing Tomorrow, I was very lucky to be able to film part of that in Bangka Belitung and to tour that film around many cities in Indonesia. So being able to do this with the U.S. Embassy in Indonesia is a very special experience for me personally. So I feel very honored to be invited back to speak with all of you. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Um, I met Paul and Millie, I want to say maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I think now. I was doing research on another project in an area of Los Angeles. It's a suburb to the east of Los Angeles called the San Gabriel Valley. And I was doing research and I just completely by chance walked into a dance studio in the middle of the day. And there was maybe 40 or 50 people who were dancing the tango in the middle of the day. And they were slightly older folks and they were all Asian. And I was like, what is this place? This was very interesting to me to kind of to understand more about this dance studio. So in order to learn more, I started taking lessons there. So I started taking dance lessons at the studio. And I do not have training as a ballroom dancer. So I was completely a beginner. I have some training in dance, but not in ballroom dancing. And it's very specific. And the more time I spent there, I started learning about this environment. And this dance studio is owned by a family from Taiwan. And most of the clientele that study at the school are Chinese Americans. So they come from Chinese descent. But they're kind of from the Chinese diaspora. So there's people who are from mainland China, there's people from Taiwan, there's people from Hong Kong, and there's a bunch of people who are Chinese Vietnamese at the studio. So it took me a while to kind of figure all of this out, but I would dance with people and talk to people and ask a lot of questions. And I also learned that most of the instructors at the school come from Russia and Eastern Europe. So ballroom dancing is very, very popular, and it's in Russia and Eastern Europe, and people start dancing it at a very young age. And many of the teachers are professional ballroom dancers who come to the US to support themselves while they're looking for more opportunities in entertainment industry. And they teach on the side to be able to compete and to afford how they live. And that's how I met Max and Elena, who are in the film, and they were my teachers. So I took their group class, and in this class, I met Paul and Millie. So if you've seen the film starts out with a group class of a lot of people dancing, and that was the class that I took, that I met them in. And Paul and Millie were very friendly to me. I was an outsider to the community, and they welcomed me and were very friendly, and they asked me a lot of questions, and I asked them a lot of questions. And we became friends, and we started hanging out and going to get coffee and dinner after class and learning, getting to know each other more. And I was really struck by how beautiful this environment was, and how unusual it is, and how typically American it is, because I was in a dance studio and I was watching instructors from Russia and Eastern Europe teach Chinese Americans Latin dance in Los Angeles. And that is in many ways, to me, one of the best things about being American, and about what the best of America has to offer, is that we, by having so many cultures live together, we create something new. And this dance studio to me represented that in a really beautiful way. And so I started talking more to Max and Elena. I started talking more to Paul and Millie. And eventually I asked them, I'm interested in filming you. Would you let me film you? And they said, yes, there's nothing special about us. I don't know what you want to film. And I was like, oh, you're quite special. Believe me, there's definitely a story here. And we all thought in the beginning, myself included, that the film might be about dancing and aging. And because a lot of the folks at the studio are middle-aged or seniors, and whereas the professional teachers like Max and Elena are very young, because they compete at a world level. Max and Elena are like very high level ballroom dancers, and so they're like very young and very fit and expert dancers. And then everybody else who's like my age and older are struggling along with the dance steps, but we're doing it because we love it. So there was something in that seemed interesting. But the more time I spent with Paul and Millie, I got to learn more about their story, and their story as being refugees from Vietnam. And that's a very specific experience. And when they finally started sharing more about how they came to the country and how they were separated for a while, I started to understand more about why they might be doing this dancing so seriously. Because for me, I was very surprised at how many hours they spent dancing. Paul and Millie, I mean, right now it's different because of COVID, right? But when I met them, they went to the studio like 5 days a week. They both work full time. They have full-time jobs. Okay, they're not retired. They work full time. And at the end of their day, they were going to the studio almost every night to rehearse and to practice and to be with their friends, because it's also like a social place. And I just was blown away by that. I mean, I don't know anybody that does that, who has something on the side that they take so seriously. And so the question for me was, why? Like, what is it? Why are they taking this so seriously? What is it in their life that would drive them to be dancing like this, and to be dancing so seriously and to be doing it so often? Because it's beyond just loving it. There was something else. And that was when I kind of understood more about their own history, and how when they first came to the United States from Vietnam, they were separated, because Paul was able to come to the country first, and it was many years until Millie was also to be able to come. So they met in Vietnam, they fell in love in Vietnam, and then Paul's family had the opportunity to leave, and they did, and Millie couldn't go with him at the time. So they had many years apart, and that was, of course, incredibly difficult to have this person that you love be away from you. And when they both got to the country, there's a big adjustment, to be coming to the US for the first time and learning how to speak English, and getting more degrees. They're both very educated, they learned new skills, and they built their life. They had a child, they got married, they had a child. But there was this moment in time when they were separated. And that, to me, started to become more clear that maybe that was part of the reason why they did this, because it was a moment to kind of make up for the time that they lost during the war when they were separated. And I wanted to tell that story because there's something about their story that is very universal, right? Which is a couple when you get into your middle age and later years, how do you keep your marriage alive? How do you find each other? How do you connect with each other? That is everybody's story. How do we still find new experiences with the people that we love in our life? How do we do that? And everybody has that experience, right? But then there was also something very specific about Paul and Millie's story, which had to do with their own history and this moment of separation. So the film is really an opportunity to tell both those stories. And what we're doing really is we're looking at the present time of them dancing and why they're dancing and what their life is like and who they do that with, what their life is like with their teachers, with their fellow students. But it's told through the lens of the past. So we understand a story about the now through what happened previously and engaging memory and editing that memory into this kind of current story. And once I asked them if they would film, they said yes, and it was very exciting, and we started shooting. And I filmed with them for 7 years. I was making a couple of other films in the process, including Inventing Tomorrow. So I was doing things like leaving Los Angeles and going to film in Indonesia and other countries. There was a whole other film that I made as well. So I made 2 other feature-length documentaries while I was shooting this film. But every time I was back in Los Angeles, we would try and meet and talk, and I would film family events. I would film classes. I would film with them training with Max and Elena, them learning new steps. They do competitions. We filmed many, many things. And then eventually the New York Times asked if I would be willing to make this into a short. They were doing a series about immigration, a bunch of different stories, and they were interested in this story because it is one way of understanding and thinking about immigration. And they asked me if I was making a longer film, and they asked me, would you make a shorter one? So I said yes, and then we started the process of making specifically what became this film. And it was a really exciting experience for me to finally get to film with them and know that we were going to be able to finish something, and specifically to be able to film this fantasy dance sequence that appears at the end of the film, which to me it's really what's going on in Paul and Millie's head while they're dancing. I wanted to have one moment in the film where you kind of went into like a dream space where when we're dancing, we feel a certain way about our life and about ourselves. And I wanted there to be one scene in the film that kind of allowed that kind of dream space to exist. And so we collaborated on that together with Max and Elena. Max and Elena did the choreography, and they rehearsed a lot together. And then we finally got the chance to shoot it on a soundstage. And that's like the kind of dream sequence at the end. So I'd love to invite Paul and Millie to speak a little bit about your experience to have this weird person show up at the dance studio and ask you if you could be filmed, and just a little bit about what it was like for you to participate in something that you've never done before. And then, you know, we also have some photos and some materials that we can show you too.
Please, Paul and Millie. It's like Laura has already given like a short introduction, and then we are willing to listen more from you.
Okay. Like Laura said, I keep telling Laura, we are not special. Why do you keep filming us? And I say, oh, Laura, this is not. We don't have anything special to offer. But she said, no, I want to film you. And then I think Laura film us a lot, like daily activity, like we went to the market, and we also have a family dinner, get together dinner, and she all the time she was around. And so at that time I didn't even think it will become a film that will be feature in a New York Times. Not even get to a Oscar nominated, but I think it's all because of Laura. She did a good job. Um, we just present what we are, so we don't have anything to do with her film. But she just make nothing out of magical, something magical.
But 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 is it okay if we would like to know more about you so you can tell us like yes, what are you doing for the daily life and so on and so forth? Just let us know.
Okay. Uh, for the time being, I'm working at home because of the COVID. I am still working as a state auditor, so I kind of love my job. Um, but I found it very it's in a different way that I work at home. I also can spend time with my family, and right now we start going back to the dance studio. So my daily life is just like I work and I cook and I go to dance studio, and that's all.
What about you, Paul?
Oh, wow. First, thank you so much for having us here, joining your seminar here. It's so refreshing to see Laura here and everybody. I love you all and appreciate the opportunity that being interviewed here. Well, I didn't really sit down and think about what to say in this interview. So I'm gonna just take a piece and throw out as we were talking. Okay. Anyways, Laura mentioned about like 8 years ago, or 7, 8 years ago, yeah. And we happened to have to meet each other at the Lala studio. And that's actually this whole story begins. And she has said everything, but basically we came from Vietnam with Chinese, Vietnamese, and I love dancing when I was a kid, but never really have a good opportunity being able to dance on the floor without fear, and then with all the good floor atmosphere, the people, the teachers. So it's really a big opportunity for me to be able to expose and being able to learn from this kind of environment versus, make a party at home and tell a few friends over and tell them, ask them to teach you, or whether they know or they don't know, they can teach you something that you may be totally wrong. But we find out that, definitely we were wrong, whatever we trying to learn when we were kids. So anyway, that's the big motivation that basically helped me come to Lai Lai regularly. Basically, I want to learn a skill, something that's real recognized to be very formal and is known as international dance. So in that process, we got to not only know our teachers, but Max and Elena, but also Laura. And it's a wonderful journey and an experience in life. And so that's my interest in dancing. And then we, basically you work at daytime and you at nighttime you just take the time to go to take the class. And so
I think Paul not only interested, but he had a passion. He had a
I
very
can
big
see it. It's like
dance.
the way you learn and then the way you dance. Like, oh my God, it's like not
it's
only
a
about you would like to learn, but it's you have passion. You have passion on it. You're right.
it's a passion. You have to spend a lot of time, money of course, and effort of course. So uh, it's a passion that really carries me throughout these many years until now. We're still doing that. Uh, because I'm basically an engineer, so I learned everything from
Logic.
childhood to 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 my to my current day today. Basically, everything I'm doing is technical technical. And so I basically had very little training or exposure to art side. But since learning the dance, that's when I start to explore into, I don't know, the left brain or the right brain or whatever brain is the opposite side of the technical brain. So that is a very interesting thing. So I finally tell myself, oh, at least I can do something called art, otherwise I am being excluded from there. I know that also from understanding that, you have two brains, two sides of the brain. So if you can develop both sides, it's better than one. So I'm very happy for that.
To be honest, after watching the movie, I feel like it's not only about the dance, but your story is also very romantic. It's something that perhaps in the past, Mas IGAK Satrya Wibawa also knows a couple, but could not make it for 6 years.
Yeah.
I know you are gonna laugh. So perhaps Mas IGAK you would like to say something on the production process based on the Laura's and Paul and Millie's story.
Yeah, this is very interesting and lovely documentary, Laura. I love the way you put it's full of silence, the silent gap between the scenes, and also putting how Paul and Millie express kind of memory to the past, and then is it the way you maybe for Laura is it the way for you to to express that dance and then living in a new country, dancing is the way to release the traumatic memory in their home country. Is this the way do you think this is the way for them to release the memory, release the traumatic memory? And also Paul and Millie, I love watching you dance. I can't dance at all, so watching you guys dance is kind of you know bring me up to your world. Like I like your instructor say, uh, emotion create emotion, or yeah, emotion makes emotion. This is true. Yeah, this is truly works for me when you move around. It gives me emotion to see how you feel and maybe to see a little bit about your memory. So do you think dance is the way for you to release the thing inside your memory?
Actually, we are not the best dancer in Lai, but we do have a best teacher. Um, the way he teach us is in a very organized and very I would say very organized and systematic way.
Well, they have a very good process in teaching.
Yes.
Like I mentioned, I'm more technical and learning art is almost impossible for me. And so I have tried to learn martial art too. And then you know how a form is, I cannot recognize the whole form. And then the same form repeat again, never gets. So therefore the same thing for dancing, you have a form, you have a routine called routine, you can never remember. But eventually, Max, Elena makes it easy and I start to learn like that.
And I think dance would help Paul a lot is because I think I didn't have a good memory, but he absolutely have a bad memory. I'm sorry. So by dancing, so he had to repeat the routine. So I think the dance not only helping us to express our feeling, express ourselves also in a health that is also a health and emotional benefit. So Paul had to memorize all the routine. So it will help him. So when he get older or when we get older, probably we can avoid Alzheimer.
So this is the best thing. I really like these explanations. Like dance help us to shape our routine memory, and it's like exercise. It's a
Yeah.
positive exercise to bring more positive energy. As you know,
Yes.
like when we have a more positive energy in life, our life will be more positive too. And
Yes.
I think that's answer Mas IGAK's questions. But like for me, it's like personal questions like being separated for 6 years is difficult, right? It's like, could you just share a little bit like how do you manage it? Like nowadays we can just turn on like Zoom, we can see each other. But in the past, it's gonna be very difficult, right? Like, could you just tell us a short story about it?
Yeah, I think for Paul, I think I let he speak on her own, but at outside at that time it's hard. But not only that, because we all want to escape from the country to other country, whatever country they accept us. So we don't see future, our future in at that time. So Paul, when he left, the only thing we can keep in contact is a letter. But when I received his letter, is 4 months later, and the letter either is torn or letter published open by somebody. So we are under the communists at that time. Um, I we keep writing to each other, but it is hard. At some time, I will always think, will he keep the same passion with me, or will he still remember me? But I remember when I received his letter, he said, I already in US, I will be very busy because he struggled. Whenever you arrive a new country, you have to struggle for your living. And then I don't see any letter from that time on. That is the darkest and hardest time. And also at the same time, I want to leave. And when he left, we didn't give each other promise. He didn't give promise to me. I didn't promise to him. I will wait for you, and then he will wait for me. So I don't know the future. That is hard. It's really hard. But I don't know how he feels at US. Maybe he feel better than than me.
Wow, wow, wow.
Please respond to that question, Paul.
I thought that is reserved to tell Laura in her film, not in here. Oh wow! We were young. Okay, we were young, and so we met each other for 6 months. So it's very hard to make for me to or for me to make any commitment at the time, other than expressing my love and my other thing expression to her. But reality is still reality. You just have to escape the country which we were in under the communist regime, and so we have to escape. And it's very difficult to escape because number one, you have to keep it secret. Number two, you have to have you know money on the road things, and we basically left behind everything: the house, the fortune. We lost. If we get caught, we would be gone. So it's a big risk. Not only you risk all the money, all the fortune, everything you have, but also the life in the ocean. So I wouldn't want to like ask her to risk something so big with me to be on the boat to go out. It's very dangerous. So basically, I told her I'm going to leave, but if I can make it, and then we will try to reconnect again if possible. So that's why when we arrived in Taiwan, I arrived Kaohsiung, Taiwan, and then later get transferred to a remote island called Makung, Peluh Makung. And that's why it's very hard to even send any letter or communication. Number one, there's a disconnection in postal mailing between like U.S. country, Taiwan country to Vietnam at the time. Almost all communication get cut, like letter, those things. So it's not like 1 day, 2 day. There's no air flights, no passenger, no nothing. So a letter have to go to Paris, go to France, go to other country, go around, doesn't go straight. It goes through many countries before it get to there. And so therefore, each round like that takes so many months. So, that's why I really said she wouldn't get the letter like 3, 4 months later for that reason. And sometimes you get lost too. So because of a lot of uncertainty and things that I still was young, I was 20 some, 22 or something. So can't promise anything. By the time we get to Taiwan and we start to slowly write letter to her, and we communicate again. So, that's how we reconnect. And of course, when it came to America, I really don't have any money, really. People think that my family rich there, so I have money. Really, no, I came to America with no money on hand. The first day I was getting to Los Angeles, and I met a friend, and the friend told me, there's a job, you go to get a job. And so, 2 days later, I tried to apply for a job, and I have to take the bus, right? Things like that. But the bus, I forgot, like 75 cents for one trip, and you have to transfer once at least. So you need about like $1.50 or less than $2 for changing. So by the time I left home, I only have $4 in my pocket, which I figured out $2 to go and $2 to come back. And by the time I got to that place, it was like 11 o'clock, and the interview asked for it was a job, electronic assembler, basically soldering thing. But anyways, I want to just put it back and talk about that later. Basically, it was hard. So uh, I have to, like do those kind of job, and then later on get to go to college. And not first I have to go to, I had to go to adult school to learn English, and then city college, and the university to graduate. So by the time I graduated in 1985, that's exactly the time she came to America, because I was preparing those days, getting all the paperwork things done. So I remember she came, and I was graduating from Pomona 1984, yeah, Pomona College, and she came. Actually, you came like a month or two, and then it was my graduation ceremony. Yeah. So it's not easy, it's not straightforward. Even a piece of letter, a piece of paper doesn't go straight one way or another. You go
Yeah.
around. So it's not easy.
Yes.
Anyway,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you so much for this sharing. It's like when we compare to this generation, when communication is easier than in the
Yeah.
past. Like I really appreciate, and I really could feel the struggle into what Laura has already shared to us during in Wokran Caca itself. I could feel it. So this is the best thing from us. We can learn, we can listen directly from you. Um, because we have questions, but before we go to the questions, I would like to return to Laura, because Laura said that she has some pictures regarding the Wokran Caca. Can we share it, Laura? Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So when you make these films, you don't know what's going to happen with the film. And we had this incredible experience of our film being nominated for an Academy Award. And so we got to go to the Oscars together and experience this crazy thing. Because when you go to the Oscars, there's these big Hollywood movies with movie stars, and when you're documentary, you're just your small documentary, right? And you're very real people, but you're walking into this very different world. So we were first when we're nominated, they have a nominees luncheon, and so the first thing I'm going to do is show you the nominees luncheon. And so there's no audience there. Everybody there is part of the people who are nominated, and I'll show you a picture of that first. It was let's see here. Okay, so I can share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes, Laura.
Okay, so this
can
is
tell
at
us
the
the story.
nominees luncheon. This is Paul and Millie and me and our producer Colette. And And then Paul and Millie got to take some super cool photos. And, at the luncheon are a bunch of other people who got nominated. So there is Millie with Leonardo DiCaprio. And then I think we also recognize this person, that's Brad Pitt, that Millie and Paul met at the luncheon. I was trying to go meet people and get votes from the documentary people, and they met every single movie star in the room. So, and we had a really great time at this lunch. And this is outside in the garden, and they got to show off some dance moves for everybody. And this is our wonderful composer, Laura Cartman. And this was at eating the lunch. So I'm gonna now I'll find you some more photos. So then we also then had the experience of being able to actually go to the Oscars themselves, and that's kind of fun. So I'll show you some of these photos. So can you see that?
Yes, Laura, we can enjoy the pictures.
This is our team here. There's my partner Dave, and our editor, our cinematographer, our producer Colette, me, and then Max and Elena, the dance instructors, and Michi Gao, who is Paul and Millie Gao's daughter. That's who this whole team is here. And of course, everybody had to dance a little bit. Paul got to show his moves to everybody, which is really fun. That was really good times. And these are some other filmmakers from South Korea that were also documentary filmmakers. And this is us on the red carpet walking in with everybody from the executive producers and people with the New York Times. And this is my friend Roger, who's one of the governors of the Academy, and people from the New York Times, and all of us. And there is Paul and Millie and their daughter, Michi Gao. So, and I think I have one more to show you here. I'll show you this one because I thought this was pretty funny. This was something that they called the glam cam. And I want to point out, you can tell who the real dancers are because I look like a big dork and these guys look fantastic. So that was part of the experience of going to this event. Yeah.
It's really awesome, Laura.
Thanks for looking. It was a pretty unusual and really special experience. We feel very lucky, but the best part for me was that I got to go to the Oscars with Paul and Millie. That was the best part.
Yes, thank you for sharing those pictures. We have questions actually for Paul and Millie. It's from Ibu Sudarita Farida. Paul and Millie, I can feel your passion in dancing because I also dance with my husband. But we cannot dance like you. How could you manage to dance so beautifully and perfectly in your age? Yeah, because for your information, Ibu Sudarita Farida is as old as you. Yeah, at the same age.
Merely just said. Say it.
No,
Merely just said. At her age, she's only 18.
Yeah, okay. So that's the secret. That's the secret. I really know. Okay, that's the secret. All right, so that's the opening questions. Then, yeah, the next question still from Ibu.
No. Let me answer that question.
Okay. Okay, you want to add something? Please.
I think because of the choreographer, our teacher did the very best choreographer. And one thing is Laura, because Laura shot it in a very beautiful way.
No, I think the main reason, I like to really answer that question seriously. Okay, not joking. Like I mentioned, that I cannot learn things easily. I cannot memorize things. So I think I would be really bad in learning any dance. So the fact that we could make it today, not really good, but we're not bad either. is because really because we met the right teachers.
What?
Hope our screen go blank. Okay, hold on a second. We met. We actually took a few classes here and there with other teachers, but we couldn't learn. And I said, I give up. I'm not going to learn dancing. I just want to enjoy. But eventually, we went and we ran into Max and Irina. And at the time when I attend his class, the first, the second one, I really get hooked because and Irina really have a good process in teaching you how to dance. Basically, Max Irina was trained. Max particularly is a ballerina when he was a kid, so he does know how to apply the method of teaching ballet dance to using ballet dance is a very complex dance. So therefore, he applied the method of teaching the discipline, the method and process of teaching somebody to learn ballet to us. So I found that very easy to learn, and that's why I follow since then. Because not if had I not met him, I wouldn't be able to dance. I really have went to like I have really gone to Lai and took a class or two class with other professional teacher, but I couldn't do it.
So I just want to say one thing to add to this, because you both are very humble about your ability to dance, but I think you're incredible dancers because you have courage when you dance, both of you. And there's just another thing that I want to say, which is, yes, you have incredible teachers, because I've taken their classes and they are incredible teachers, but it's also because you put the work into it. You spend so much time dancing and you spend so much time rehearsing. And if you put time into anything, you get results. But if you don't put the time in, you don't get those results. And you both used to tell me that, because I was taking classes with you, but I was always leaving to go work on another film. And Paul would say to me, "You're not serious about this. You're never going to be good because you don't take this very seriously." And he's right. I mean, if you want to be really good at something, you have to do it all the time. Like Malcolm Gladwell would say, you have to do 10,000 hours, right? And you really do. You really have to put in the time. But I would say it's also in addition to your teachers, because you work very hard at it.
Correct. I guess in learning anything is similar. You have to have the passion. You have to be at the right time, meet the right person, do the right thing. Also, one of the thing is you have to meet the right person, even you are ready. Chinese have a saying, say, 天时地利人和, meaning at the right time, 地利 at the right place, 人和 meet the right people. If you have to have all those three, to be successful in anything.
Yes. So thank you so much. And from the attendees' responses here, I'm reading. It's like very inspiring, and it's like giving harmonism just like another inspiration for middle-aged marriage. So this is from Ibu Erinawati. And okay, let's go to the next part of the webinar. I will get back to all of you here. The second part, before we start it, Mbak Esti, could you help me with the second polling? Because this is the second part of today's webinar. We are going to talk about the minority and diversity in Indonesian cinema. Yes, thank you for launching the poll. So for all the audience here, I would like to ask your responses to get involved in these webinars by answering two short questions. Have you ever been a minority, and have you ever been discriminated? And yeah, this is like open things for all the audience here who would like to know. But for sure, there will be another questions, because we have some questions. I still save them for Laura. not now. We will continue to this part first, and then we'll get back to you. Yes, finish or still 51%. And for the attendees, I would like to remind you once again, if you want to listen this discussion in Indonesian, just use the interpretation feature. Click the interpretation feature and then select Indonesian language. Yeah. And for your information, Paul, Millie, Masiga, and also Laura, wow, the participants are very enjoy with the discussions. They love the story. They love the explanation, the pictures from the Oscars, like amazing. Okay, uh, yes. So to sum up, have you ever been in a minority? The first question from our attendees here, 73%. Wow, great. It's like for me myself, yes. I will say yes. I will put yes. And have you ever been discriminated? 67% yes. So this is interesting for all the speakers here. It's like no, it's a great knowledge for us that today's topic is very important, and we have Paul and Millie, we have Laura, and of course it's time for Masiga to share his presentation, or let's say his knowledge on Indonesian cinema. Time is yours, Masiga.
Thank you, Pugu. Again, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Paul and Millie. Your movies is so beautiful, so wonderful. So, as I said, the way Laura bring the visual with a lot of silence, and also the pictures of as and Paul and Millie dance, and also bring us to to the memory of your home country, and you're struggling there without vivid visual is so wonderful for me. So it kind of this movie brings up the way to telling traumatic and memory to different level. We can see from your dance, we can hear it from your visual dancing. So through your motion creates emotion for especially for me. So in different perspective also in Indonesian cinema in this case, I do have some perspective to share with you here in a way how we see Indonesian cinema bring minority and also diversity in the screen. As you know, and maybe for the one those who might not aware, Indonesia is a kind of big country. Geographically, is kind of similar with United States. From the south to the north, from the west to the to the east is kind of similar with Indonesia, and also Indonesia has a very diverse ethnicities. We have local ethnic is kind of, I'm not sure with the number, but kind of a 1,300 local ethnics, and also around like 400 and until 500 local languages. So we have official six religions, but also we have a wide range of local religions, or what we call genuine religions from Indonesia. So we do have very wide range of diversities actually, and how Indonesian cinema put it in the screen. That's an interesting question, because I would like to share my screen for some pictures and data, and also some reflection. But also I would like to remind you, but the Indonesian cinema case it might be different compared with Hollywood or American cinema, because we do not we don't stand as like a big industry just like in Hollywood. So if in Hollywood we can see like the way American in cinema industry put minority and also diversity in different kind of way, it might be different with our cinema put the minority and diversity perspective. In Indonesia, we still kind of asking the question who we are as Indonesia. I would like to put you to the historical journey of Indonesian cinema that might give a basic foundation of the way Indonesian cinema putting minority and diversity in the screen. So I would say during the colonialism, Indonesia is more diverse in the screen. During the if we put the historical subject here in this session, we are under the Dutch colonialism, we are under Japanese colonialism, and during the Dutch colonialism, Indonesia is more diverse because we can see a lot of local language, local ethnicities, and also we will we have seen many Chinese language cinema, because in that era, the Chinese film business company is free to have like to produce their cinema. So we have a Chinese language cinema. We have a local folk store. We have a local story just like this. Lutung Kasarung is a local stories from West Java. It considered is the first Indonesian narrative cinema in Indonesian cinema history, made by the Germany and the Dutch filmmakers, using local actors and local stories. So why Indonesia is more diverse in the screen? They use local language. They use diverse ethnics. Chinese on the stage, Dutch on the stage, Malay on the stage, because Indonesia as a word is politically forbidden for the colonialism. So this is the example for one of big box office movies at the time is Rencong Aceh. Rencong is a knife from Aceh. It's the part of Indonesia, but also the film trying to adopt the popular movies at the time, Tarzan. So they adopt the story and they put it in local context, and we see Aceh's culture here. The thing that might be very difficult to see in Indonesian cinema, in the contemporary Indonesian cinema at the moment. So that's why I say during the colonialism, Indonesian cinema is more diverse. But they're not talking about Indonesia, but they're talking about the local and local languages and local ethnics in that. And then time changed. We got independence and in 1945, and in this post-independent Indonesian cinema, we struggle with identity. We're looking for Indonesianness. Who are we? Because we spread out very wide range with 1,300 local ethnics and 400 local languages. We're trying to catch up how we define ourselves. And we got the language. We got the language. The language is nationalism and patriotism. So we're trying to put Indonesia above everything. So we're trying to unite. We're trying to be one nation, one state as Indonesia. In that time, all the theme, all the idea is about how we keep the independence, how we struggle with independence, and how we define ourselves. And then another regime come. The time is also changed, and we arrive in the political era of Indonesian cinema. This is during the Suharto presidential. He is the one who well known as the most tyrannic presidential in Indonesian political era. So cinema becoming the political tools, Indonesia becoming ideology. So Indonesia as ideology is above all. So in order to get the identity of Indonesia based on new order ideology, is is in a way trying to abolish diversity, trying to diminish diversity to get into single identity as Indonesia. This is Si Unyil is the most famous TV show programs made by the state company of the official state for the film company. The Si Unyil is a puppet show adopting the Muppet show in the US show. The Si Unyil trying to put the idealist figure of Indonesian citizen through the Si Unyil. Si Unyil is the name. He is represent what the model of Indonesian citizen according to the new order. So there is a diversity in there. There is a in this Si Unyil live in the small village with the very diverse community, with Madura, with the local dialect of Madura, with Javanese. Even though Si Unyil look like a Javanese, but also she has a very strong neighbor called Pak Raden who represent a Javanese culture. He has a neighbor, a Chinese neighbor. who speak in a Chinese accent in Indonesia. Even though they put wide, diverse representation in there, but this show actually trying to abolish the diversity, trying to ignore the diversity to put it as Indonesia in this representation. So this kind of ideology have been criticized by Garin Nugroho in one of his films, Letter to an Angel, Surat untuk Bidadari. This is the first film during the New Order made outside Jakarta. So Indonesian government at the time, 1965 to 1998, put a lot of restriction for filmmakers. They have to make a film in Java only. They have to make a film in Indonesian language only, and also all the directors who want to make a film should be registered and should have approval from a minister of information at the time. If you don't have approval, you don't have a register as a director officially in the state, you're not allowed to make a film. If you want to make a film, you need to give all the scripts, all the clues to the government to get an approval. If you don't get approval, you can't make a film. If you want to make a film in outside the Jakarta, they will have a look which area you want to see and how is the stories. If you don't get approval, you can't make a film. So this kind of government may be similar with the Paul and Mille experience in the past in the home country. So this has also happened in Indonesia. So this kind of cinema political applies by the government trying to centralize identity as Indonesia. In order to centralize identity as Indonesia, the policy abolish the diversity. This film trying to criticize that in one of the scene. So this is the common example of the subject in Indonesian education curriculum. So it always the way saying ini Ibu Budi, it means this is Budi's mother, this is Budi, and this is Budi's father. So
not my mother, of course.
Yes.
My name is also Budi, but not my mother. Just a joke, Mas Iga, sorry.
This kind of picture, visual, comes as a homogenized identity of Indonesian family. And the film that I talked to you later to an angel has some characters. Lewa is a boy, and he attends the school. The setting of the film is in the East Sumba. It's a far away from Jakarta, and in East Sumba, the women doesn't wear a kabaya just like in the picture. They wearing another kind of Sumba clothes. So the film saying Lewa questioning this subject. Why I should acknowledge this as my mom? My mom doesn't wear this kind of clothes. So this visual maybe is kind of a small visual, but also intriguing a question. The way the government trying to centralize identity as Indonesia is put the effort on the education system as well. So they don't acknowledge the diversity. They don't acknowledge the richness of local culture. So it happens in the New Order. That's why the academician call the 32 years of the New Order regime as a political cinema, because they put everything in cinema as a political agenda. So now the times change, the government, the New Order government regime is fallen down, and we come to the new era. We call it a Reformation era. As you know, from 1998, we have like on a free general election, more democratic element comes up, and more freedom, especially for the Indonesian filmmakers. So still, we understand that as a struggling, puzzling courage for diverse moment, try to put all the diversity of Indonesian context in the cinema. We do have a lot of films that, especially narrative films, trying to put diversity on the screen. So, for example, if we're talking about Papua, in this case, we have a big island called Papua, and also still on political struggle. Only on the record, only we have only couple of films telling us about Papua. So this kind of the way we're struggling with that, because filming in Papua maybe is not as easy as filming in Java, but also a lot of issues come from that we need to know actually. This is the example from Garin Nugroho. I think this is the first film putting a local Papuan with the local story about Papua issue on the screen. Because Papua in the past is a forbidden place to make a film. Well, also because it's a conflict area. But this film start to open the Pandora box, open the opportunity for Indonesian filmmaker to put more diverse issues in the screen. So aku ingin mencium sekali saja. I want to kiss you once. It's a story about a Papuan boy who struggle with his love life with strangers come from Java who has a different physical appearance with the most of the Papuan people, and also the idea of the strangers come up with the political agenda of the government in the way of Papuan people inspire or aspire for their independence separately. So this struggling, puzzling correct also put in another way of the second film about Papua, Denias Senandung di Atas Awan, is the one who I think nominated for the foreign film, the best foreign film in the Academy Award as well as nominated from Indonesia. Denias is based on the true story of Denias, the name of the boy who trying to study in the school, getting help by one of the military members in Papua, and he get through that, he get succeed, and he get his education. This is the different way to represent Papua in different story, of course. So representing ethnicities in Indonesian cinema is kind of find their way after years only placing Java as a central story of the cinema. And also we also trying to represent languages, a diversity of languages in Indonesia. As you know, we have more than 1,000 local languages, and most of the films we watch usually speak in our national language in Indonesia. But in fact, in our local regions, most of us still speak in our local languages. Maybe I'm a Balinese. I speak totally in total 4 languages actually. The first one also, of course, in Indonesian language. The second one, my mother language is a Balinese. I speak Balinese, which is totally different with Indonesian language. And because I live in Java Island now, I speak a bit of in Javanese language, and which is also totally different with Balinese language and another language in Indonesia, and also speak English. But yeah, the way the Indonesian cinema trying to local language is also kind of challenges, because not all of us understand the languages, because we in years been imposed as a Indonesian language is most important than local language. So you should and you have to understand Indonesian language above local languages. So, and then Indonesian filmmaker trying to present a different kind of a local language. In this film, Yowes Band is presenting like 90% of in Javanese. it kind of succeed. It attract nationwide viewers. This is only one example because we do have a list of film using local languages. And then this is the most sensitive issue still at the moment. We with some Indonesian cinema trying to put diversity of races. So this is film about if you see the title, Chin with the blue T and A, is represent cinta, love, and China, a Chinese. As you know, a Chinese ethnic still becoming a double minority in Indonesia, and we still, frankly speaking, having an issue how to, for the most of the people in Indonesia, put the Chinese as a same ethnic as other ethnics in Indonesia. But we should acknowledge there is still homework to be done. Unfortunately, because the some of the people, even though the government, not the government, the representative of the political party, still utilizing this as a political agenda in Indonesia. So I think this film is one of among very few Indonesian cinema presenting Chinese ethnic as the main theme in the cinema. So most of the film usually placing Chinese ethnic as a secondary subject or part of the like a joke subject. It also happened with another ethnic Indonesia like Maduranis or Bataknis or even Balinese. So they put some Indonesian cinema in the past placing diversity is not as a serious issues to be discussed, only as a part of the way to to a joke side or the humor side of the narrative. So it is unfortunately we still find this kind of framing ethnicities in Indonesian cinema. So these movies are actually talking about how the different religions, different ethnicities find a way in loving each other. As you know, marriage, different religion and different ethnics in Indonesia is still quite a sensitive issues. Some
Mas Iga,
politicians, yes.
Sorry for interrupting this. Like, yeah, because we are running out of time also. But
yeah,
what do you think about the way many Indonesian filmmakers like represent the discrimination itself, Mas? Is it something that easily can be portrayed, or do they, or perhaps they have more obstacles that deals with censorship or something?
I note some of the filmmakers trying to put these issues, discrimination and race issue in the film. But the problem now is it's not from the government, but actually most came from the society. We do have the case here. This is the one who put the religion issues as the theme, but becoming intriguing some of the part of the society trying to complain about the issues because they said this film is trying to put our religion under different perspective, and also this one is a famous film from Garin Nugroho. The film is not talking about LGBT issue actually. It is talking about the culture in Indonesia. But some of the society reject the film, come to the cinema and asking the cinema to be put back down because they feel the film is promoting LGBT issue. They don't even watch the film yet. So
This is interesting, yeah, Mas. I mean, like, it's not from the cineas, but the society. And sometimes they have like a prejudice before they watch the film itself.
Yeah, I talked with the censor film commission in Indonesia, and they said they don't do the censorship anymore. They do like what we call self-censor, or the age rating. So if the film came like, okay, this is the film suitable only for the the age, certain age, 21st above, for example, they will do this is for the 21st, but they don't do the censorship. The problem comes when the film, released in cinema. The society, some part of the element in the society think differently and act differently. So they have more power than the authority at the moment. That's the way we see. Some film also kind of receive a similar reaction from the society, especially when the film trying to put some sensitive issues about the race, discrimination, and religions. So this is the recent example. The film has already passed the censorship, put the age rating, and get the international acknowledgement. And some people come to the cinema and asking the film should be put back down because they think, you remember, they think because they haven't watched the film at all. They think the film promote LGBT issue based on these posters. This is interesting because this film is about Indonesian culture. This is truly happened in our Indonesian society. We have a man dancer acting as a woman. Actually, this is part of the culture. So this is, I call it heal wounded nation. After 32 years, we got restriction, and now we're trying to get more freedom, but also we get more prejudiced society for the discrimination issue.
And this is also we can also ask to Laura as the American filmmakers, like, what about the feeling of portraying the minority and diversity and perhaps the discrimination itself? I mean, like, in Indonesia, that's the situation. What about there? I mean, like, is this everything good? Or you may have your words, Laura, please.
So one of the principles that guided me in making this film is I felt like it was very important to not just speak about Paul and Millie being a minority in our country, and also not to define them by their trauma or their struggle from the past. So their trauma and struggle, being war refugees, is part of their story, but it's not all of their story, right? They've been living in the United States for decades now, right? For many, many, many years. And while they are Chinese, Vietnamese Americans, and while they are war refugees, they're also, Paul's an engineer and Millie is working in accounting, and they have a daughter and they dance and they have friends and they've built this incredible life in the country. And I think too often there is too much attention that's paid to like the struggle or the trauma, and not enough paid to what happens after, right? Because in the United States, when people come, there's a time of adjustment, right? But then after that time of adjustment, life goes on, right? And you build your life and you live your life. Exactly. And that life is rich, and that life there's many things to celebrate in that. So I think it's a matter of balancing, right? Not ignoring the difference, recognizing the difference, but not at the same time concentrating too much on what's different, and looking for where we are connected as humans and how there's many experiences which are the same for everyone, right? Which was, whether that's about, being scared that you might not reunite with the person that you love, or what it's like to become older, and what challenges we face as we get older, etc. So I think it's always looking for what's universal and also looking for what is different. And I think that that's a really important part of this conversation when we speak about representation and minority populations. And I just want to acknowledge too that for me as a white European American person, to make this film is tricky, right? Because I do not come from this community. So I'm not Russian nor Eastern European, and I'm also not Chinese, I'm not Vietnamese, I'm not Taiwanese, right? So I walked in as a white person into this space, and I occupy there's privilege that's associated with that, right? As a white person, I have privilege to be able to enter that space. And I take that, I have to acknowledge that, and I take that very seriously. And I feel then that I also have to engage in a practice of accountability to this community, right? I can't just make whatever I want and make it about whatever I think. And that's where it becomes a collaboration. So that's why we spoke a lot about when the story started changing and it became more personal. It was important to me that Paul and Millie were okay with that, right? And before I finished the film, I showed it to them and I said, if there's something in here that you don't like, I want you to tell me now, because if there's something about your story that you feel I misrepresented or I got wrong, I want to know, because I would take that very seriously. It's not just like I'm the artist and I get to do whatever I want. And I feel that's especially important when you're outside the community. So there was one scene that they didn't love, which was the scene when they're being interviewed and they're out of sync. And they call it the passport photo scene because they didn't like that it was so close on their face. And I was like, okay, but do you have a problem with the meaning of the scene, or do you just not like how you look in the video? And it became clear that it was really, they didn't love how close it was on their faces. And I was like, okay, so let's keep talking about this. But we did end up keeping that scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Because wow, to be honest, like the discussion is very lovely and many questions that have already also answered directly by Laura. Thank you, Laura, for on the question and answer session. So I would like to pick some good questions here from Ibu Widyastuti Purbani for Mas Iga. I see that our Indonesian narration films, novel short stories are more busy celebrating the diversity rather than going deeper into the voice, the struggle of minority, and the marginalized community, which might be much more interesting and important. What do you think? Short answer, Mas.
Yes, I agree with that, especially if we're talking about the industry now, because they all need to think about the way they catch up the audience. So much easier for them. Maybe I'm not the filmmaker, but maybe to see that from the surface only, not going deep. But if you can find, we have a lot of documentaries, just like what Laura did in this film. A lot of documentaries trying to dig more deep into not really the surface issues, but also the way they struggle, the way they trying to, for example, I know some film about the communism things, trying to adopt the society, because now still at the moment, maybe Laura understand the political issue in Indonesia. We don't talk about communism because we have traumatic memories, political, not for the society, but also for the government. So if you talk about communism, it's kind of forbidden. And also if the people is already put under the radar as part of the Communist Party in the past, they will be struggling in life because people in the society put them as a very guilty person. So there is a documentary about that. They're trying to cope with the society. They're trying to struggle. They're trying to live normally because actually they don't involve at all in any political movement in the past, but because only he's a son of the member of them. So the film trying to get into this. The film trying to inspire us to be healed as a nation, as a state. But yeah, we do have a lot of film, mostly documentaries in Indonesia actually, but maybe it's kind of another issues to find out and watch the film. But if you're talking about industrial aspect, yes, I agree with you. Some of them, not all, some of them trying to only copy the issue in the surface area, but at least they start the discuss the issues.
Okay.
The thing that we don't get it in the past.
Related to your explanation, Mas, because you mentioned about the documentaries and some films. Question from Nur Khalifah. Do you have some recommendation movie that we could use to teach children about diversity of Indonesian?
Yes, for the one fiction film you could, I will recommend Laskar Pelangi, of course. One. It's about children who, this is a very famous movie actually.
Yeah, Laskar Pelangi.
And second was Sekolah Rimba. Okay. Sekolah Rimba is a free school in Kalimantan in the middle of the jungle. initiated by the one lady, teacher lady. I forgot the names. It's a true story actually, and also a series of films made by Alenia Pictures. Also, they always present children as the main character in their films. So you can find it in the internet, the list of the film. Most of them available now, but I'm not sure during the pandemic how to get the film in the market. But maybe you can find it in some streaming services. But that's my recommendation. But also in YouTube, there is a wide range of movies presenting diversities in a different way in Indonesia. I will keep in touch with you. Give me my email. I will give you the source of the website. They have a short list of the films that might be
Great.
useful for your school.
Great, Mas. Okay. Because next one, I know our time is limited, but I would like to raise this one. From Dwi Suyanti Nugraheni from Yogyakarta. It's like she hope films like Bokran Caca will bring more understanding about Asian people or other culture, because she read from many news that there is a Asian hate case rising. So she hopes that films like Bokran Caca will bring more understanding about Asian people or other culture. And she has question for Laura. How do you approach your subjects means here? How long does it take until you get the permit to filming them?
So in the case of Wakran Chacha, Paula and Millie and I knew each other for a year before I asked them if they'd be interested in being filmed. I felt like it was really important to take that time because I was from outside the community. So if it was within my own community, I might have asked sooner, but I felt like I needed to understand more in order to even think I knew what film I could make. So I took my time. Sometimes you meet people on the day and you start filming. Other times you have to spend a long time getting access. I know sometimes it takes years to get access to subjects for documentaries. So it really depends on, there's no one answer for this. It depends on who it is, what the subject matter is, if there's risk to be filmed, because sometimes there's security issues for people to be filmed. So it differs. But for this time, it took a year.
Thank you, Laura. So I know that there are many questions from this discussion, but unfortunately our time is limited. So let's go to the next part of the webinar. Yes, we are very grateful because Bu Enji is still here. So we would like to have some words from you, Bu Enji.
Not only am I still here, but my husband is hiding in the background as well.
Hi, Pak Sandip.
He was very interested in this as well. And as were the audiences who came from all over Indonesia, just watching the chat and all the questions and the interest, that was really wonderful to see that this really brought up some good conversation and good topics to discuss. And again, I cannot thank everyone enough, Pak Satrya, Paul and Millie and Laura, really for taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise and personal stories with us. It was really a really special way to spend a Saturday morning here in Indonesia. And I want to just thank you all again for joining and sharing with us. So, and happy July 4th, Independence Day to you guys who will be celebrating in a couple of days as well. And hopefully you can see some more celebrations this year than maybe last year. So thank you again to everyone for joining. We will bring you more exciting programs. Please follow us on social media. Keep in touch with us with WhatsApp. Whatever method works for you works for us as well. And
don't forget, you can still watch these movies through tomorrow. The link is like way up in the chat, but they're fabulous. I've watched almost all of them. I know Pugu watched them all. So please feel free while you're enjoying your time inside at night with your families, whenever it strikes you, to watch the movies. Stay safe, everyone, please. Thank you again so much for a wonderful discussion. And we all really appreciate everything.
Thank you so much, BNG. It's not the end of the webinar because we.
Oh, it's not. Never mind. Stay on.
Just a joke. Just a joke. Of course, this is going to be the end of the webinar. So, Mbak Esti, would you like helping me to distribute the last poll, the last polling for today? Yes. So this polling is for the attendees. I really ask all of the attendees to complete the polling, to give us feedback to have better event in the future. And yeah, while you are taking your polling, we are going to announce the best questions, those who will receive some gifts from us. Is it ready or not? Yes, ready. Okay.
Setelah
I will.
Ya, Bu ya.
Oh, okay, after this. Can I read the?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. The first one, let me read. The first is Dwi Putra Kurniawan. The second one is Widya Stuti Purbani. And the last one is Nur Khalifah. Yeah, so congratulations for the best 3 questions, and the details we will show it on the screen after we finish the poll. At least 60% of the polling, and then we close the polling. And once again, I really thank you for the speakers, start from Paul and Millie, Laura, and also Masiga. I do believe after this webinar, Masiga will tell me that you should learn from Paul and Millie for the long distance relationship. It's like a very great story. It's like, this is the thing that when the first time I met Laura, after watching your film, it's like, oh my God, so romantic. I mean, the struggle is there. Okay, the polling has finished, and thank you so much. And yeah, we can continue to the best questions announcement. Would you mind sharing the slide, Basti? Yeah, so congratulations once again to Dwi Putra Kurniawan, Widya Stuti Purbani, and Nur Khalifah. Yeah. Please drop your details, your contact details to us, to the panelists here. My colleagues from the co-host will help you. Yes, Mbak Esti has already dropped the email address. So please drop your details, your contact details to passurabaya@state.gov. Okay, because this is the closing of the event, I would like to also thank my colleagues who have already worked so hard for this event from Medan, Jakarta, and Surabaya. For all the speakers, start from the first one, Izzy-chan, Miki Duze, Kamila Andini, and today, Masiga, Laura, Paul and Millie. We are very glad to have you all and to succeed this beautiful event. Hopefully we are gonna have the AFS 2022. What about it, BNG? BNG will say something about it.
I hope that one will be in person. Let's say that.
Yes, let's hope that will be in person. Yeah, so this is the last one from me. As the closing, just be like in the opening, but this one is for closing. I met a Dutch in Washington. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so once again, thank you everyone. Have a good day. Stay safe and healthy. And bye-bye. See you
Bye.
Terima
soon.
kasih.
Thank you,
Everyone.
Paul, Millie. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Thank you,
stay healthy.
Satria.
Thank you.
Terima kasih. Thank you.
Sama-sama, terima kasih.
I want to learn.
It's a great to have you all. It's like
Yeah.
the questions are very wow, very great. Sometimes like it's kind of confusing for me. It's like to pick the best questions. Wow, it's difficult.